What happens when small Caribbean nations stand up to the world's biggest superpower? This week, the Caribbean made a move that could reshape regional politics, pledging humanitarian support to Cuba while tensions rise with the United States. Is this unity? Is this defiance? Or is this survival? Let's talk about it. According to a recent report from The Guardian, Caribbean leaders have pledged humanitarian assistance to Cuba amid worsening economic and energy crisis. The decision came during the Caribbean Community Summit held in St Kitts and Nevis. Now understand this. Cuba is facing serious fuel shortages, economic pressure, and growing hardship. Sanctions and tightened U.S. policies have made an already fragile situation worse. And when Cuba struggles, the Caribbean feels it. Migration increases, trade shifts, stability shakes. So this is not just about Cuba. This is about regional survival. The CARICOM chairman, Terence Dew, made it clear that the region intends to respond in a significant way. That statement matters because for small island states, economies heavily tied to tourism, trade, and foreign policy relationships, every diplomatic move carries weight. But here's where it gets a bit interesting. Not every Caribbean country is aligned on U.S. policy. Some leaders are cautious. Others are openly cooperative with Washington. And at that summit, even U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was present, showing that the United States is watching closely. So what does this mean? It means the Caribbean is walking a diplomatic tightrope. On one side, loyalty to regional solidarity. On the other, economic dependence on the United States. And let's be honest, most Caribbean economies cannot afford to alienate Washington. At the same time, though, they cannot ignore Havana's suffering. Even countries like Mexico and Canada have already stepped in with humanitarian aid. So Caribbean pledge is not isolated. It's part of a broader regional and international response. But here's the deeper question. Is this simply humanitarian assistance? Or is it the Caribbean quietly asserting political independence? Which a lot has been crying for, but obviously, for obvious reasons, no, we can't. But for decades, Cuba has played a role in the Caribbean development, sending doctors, teachers, and technical support across the region. Many Caribbean nations remember that. And in times of crisis, loyalty has memory. However, geopolitics does not operate on emotions. If United States and Cuba tension escalate further, CARICOM nations could find themselves pressured to choose sides. And history shows when big powers clash, small nations feel the shockwave first. From a strategic standpoint, though, this is a smart but risky move. Smart because the regional unity strengthens the bargaining power. But risky, on the other hand, because economic retaliation is always a possibility when larger powers feel challenged. The Caribbean has always existed between giants, historically Europe and America, now increasingly China as well. The question is whether this generation of Caribbean leaders can balance diplomacy without sacrificing sovereignty. Is this the start of a more independent Caribbean foreign policy, or just a temporary humanitarian gesture? Time will tell, though. But one thing clear, the Caribbean is no longer silent. And geopolitics, silence is often mistaken for weakness. So what do you think? Is the CARICOM doing the right thing by supporting Cuba? Or should the region tread more carefully within the United States or with the United States? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe to CBC for a deeper breakdown and Caribbean and global politics. This is CBC, and we're just getting started. Bless up.